He's recognized now for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Honorable Chair, Ranking Member, and members of the subcommittee. I am Thomas Saenz, President and General Counsel of MALDEF, and as you noted, I have had the opportunity in the last year or two to address this subcommittee about the critical importance of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and in particular, of reintroducing preclearance as a powerful form of alternative dispute resolution to both prevent and efficiently deter voting rights violations by jurisdictions across the country. Today, I have the opportunity to address the ongoing redistricting process that, as you all know, occurs every decade throughout the country. We are midway through that process, but we already have some sense of what the impact of this first redistricting without the protections of preclearance will be. For the Latino community that has shown substantial growth over the past several decades, every redistricting process since at least 1981 has presented the opportunity warranted by the growth of the Latino population to elect new officials who are responsive and selected by the Latino community. This year should have proved no exception. Our census showed that 51% of the entire country's population growth in the last decade was from the Latino community. Latinos are now 19% of the total national population and have shown even higher rates of growth in particular states around the country. But that opportunity that should have been occasioned through the census demonstrated growth has not been realized. Although we are midway through the process and some states and many localities are still going through the redistricting process, I can now quantify, in some sense, the impacts of the failure to put in place the John R. Lewis Act, and in particular, its preclearance formulas. MALDEF is in litigation against 3 states, Texas, Illinois, and as of yesterday, Washington, about their statewide redistricting processes. I choose these 3 states not just because we're litigating against them, but because they demonstrate the lie about the assertion that somehow the Voting Rights Act is a partisan tool used only against Republicans. In Illinois, the process we challenged was entirely in the hands of Democrats. In Texas, yes, it was entirely in the hands of Republicans. In Washington state, notably, it was a redistricting commission rather than a partisan legislature that drew the lines that we now challenge. In these 3 states, but in particular in Illinois and Texas, both, we saw not just the failure to create new Latino majority districts in state legislature, Congress, and in the Texas State Board of Education, but also the dismantling of districts that were already Latino majority, either because they were drawn that way a decade earlier, or because they had developed through natural movement of population into being majority Latino districts over the last decade. So we saw both failure to create new districts and dismantling of existing Latino majority districts. In these 3 states, we saw for the Latino community the price of the failure to enact the John Lewis Act in 18 lost Latino majority seats in Congress, state legislatures, and state board of education. 18 seats. I emphasize that because the unfortunate nature of vote suppression is we often cannot quantify the impact. Even at the primary level, we can only estimate how many eligible voters have been prevented from registering or casting a ballot. We can only speculate about how they might have voted and the impact on the elections. When it comes to secondary effects, we can only guess. We know it's devastating. We can only guess at how many voters were deterred from participating themselves because a member of their family or community was prevented by vote suppression from casting a ballot. And at the tertiary level, again, devastating, we know, but we can only guess at how many people have seen their cynicism about government increase because of vote suppression. But through redistricting, we can quantify the effects of the failure to enact the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. For the Latino community, it now stands at 18 lost Latino majority districts, districts that would have allowed the growing Latino community, present in this country from its very beginnings, in significant numbers since the mid-19th century, and an increasing proportion of our future, would have allowed that community to elect candidates of choice to important legislative positions. That 18 is only the beginning, because we are only midway through this process. That 18, however, demonstrates how critically important that the Senate,
I believe time is expired.
that the Senate act to put in place the John Lewis Act and the pre-clearance formulas that are embedded within it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.